l'chaim, for blessing, for peace, for wisdom, for honor, for glory, for all good things. L'chaim, l'chaim. As the first video had said, there were certain salvations that I was writing to Ohel Lubavitch about. And in the process of finishing those requests and givings of gratitude to the Most High God, then this discourse full devotion came to my attention that we should be able to complete, which was last Tuesday. And not only for my own salvations and my own requests, but also for all of us together corporately, as a country, as a people, as a society as a whole, so that we should all be able to elevate together and walk into the Messianic era. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for subscribing. We left off in some very deep it was talking about spiritual children. And number 8, where we left off, it was saying that this none shall miscarry nor be barren. And it was talking about when we have love of God, then this is a masculine type of child. And when we have awe of God, that this is like a feminine child. And it was talking about the different types of women, how that they could be barren. There's 2 different ways. And it was also talking about this concept of whether or not you could be barren, then our feelings should be, as we're generating these feelings of love and awe for God, that at least once a year, that it takes time, that we should have this. It's was referring to it, if I'm correct, as an impregnation of this feeling within us, and that we have to, like a baby, even while it's in the mother's womb, that it has to still be taken care of for it to have growth. So this fact that none shall miscarry, we're picking up on page 58, says, however, even once the emotions of love and awe are born and become revealed in the heart, which is the opposite of barrenness, which we are talking about, the original verse of this particular mimer coming out of Exodus in the 23rd chapter and the 26th verse, that, and you shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall bless your bread and your water, and I will remove illness from your midst. If you need to catch up, please feel free to go back to the first version of this video. Like to, once again, always I dedicate the learning to my brother Theodore Jason Ben Homer Doler, and my brother-in-law Richard Allen, and also to my beautiful daughter Tatiana Alize, that today being your birthday, may you continue to grow in health and wealth and wisdom. May you even see a double abundance of blessing in your life, and that Most High continues to draw you near. Let us continue along number 9, spiritual contentment. It is also important for one to find a way not to become content with one's avoda, this service of God, okay? When we left off, it was saying, only then does it become apparent that the service of God is true, as the lip of truth shall be established forever. And in Proverbs 12:19 is where that comes from. It says, when the truth is spoken, it is established forever. It is everlasting. In contrast, the verse continues, but a lying tongue is but for a moment, i.e., falsehood does not last. When the emotions of love and awe do not dissipate but remain for a long time, it is a sign that they were truthful to begin with, as we learn in Tanya chapter 13. And as we bring Abyssal here and try to further illuminate the context, we're talking about how also when godly light comes into our life and we have these aha moments that we see godliness, perhaps even without much toil, how quickly that these things can be fleeting. But when we reciprocate with a measure of work and toil and godly love back, then it generates more of a masculine, more lasting type of love with the creator, where we're not just inspired, but we create an arousal from below to above. So this spiritual contentment and us not becoming content in our avodah, our service, our divine service, which is when a person is satisfied with his current state, he loses his ambition to invest effort and apply himself to furthering his current state, as we're going to begin to discuss as the conclusion. This applies even when one serves God in a suitable manner, with both intellectual comprehension and emotions of the heart that are revealed within his heart, and which are not merely false impressions, but true love and awe that are recognizable through his adherence to Torah and mitzvot. In addition to actually observing these Torah and mitzvot, he is also aware of the meaning of the mitzvot, and is even aware of the divine revelations that the performance of mitzvot elicit. Very high person in these cases, and any of us can be on a path much lower than these levels and very holy. For example, giving charity elicits a spiritual revelation in the path of chesed, kindness, loving kindness, serving God and matters of discipline, as exemplified by the verse, you have made judgment in Yaakov, Jacob, which is, it elicits a spiritual revelation in the path of Gevurah, which is discipline. Torah study, which is the middle path, elicits a revelation that is likewise in the middle path. With God's help, we'll go back and put the shir, the presentation for the 9th day of the temple, when we had the yard site for Samak Tzedek right before Pesach, because it's talking about the extreme power that our Torah study has. It was saying that idolatry, murder, and whatever that the third, I would say, cardinal sin is, that the Samak Tzedek teaches us that God overlooks these things, but he is not willing to overlook our neglect of Torah study, because there's something that Torah study does in this world with our brain and our heart and our liver, and how the blood is shifted through these things, and how it's connected with our soul, our nefesh, our ruach, our neshama, nefesh being in the liver, and how when these corrections that need to be made in our world, and these perhaps salvations that we are looking for, the way to make these corrections in the lower world here where we're at is by studying Torah. Let us continue along here. Psalms in the 99th chapter, in the 4th verse, judgment in Jacob, as we were talking about, refers to the laws of the Torah that guide Jacob. You have made emphasizes that God established these laws, And particularly this verse here, Psalms 99th chapter, 4th verse. This verse refers to restricting one's involvement in prohibited, unholy, and superfluous activities. All evil receives nurture from Gavaira, this discipline, this strictness, the perhaps even severity, the supernal aspect of discipline, since only by limiting the infinite can there be room for anything opposition, for any opposition. Serving God by way of restriction elicits Gavaira and ensures that it is not channeled to nurture evil, but rather that its restrictive nature works to exclude evil, as we learn in Torah or Beishalach 63b, in the book of Exodus and the book of Shemot. Beishalach really opens up so much for us, and is such a representative point of our existence as a Jewish nation, and also where a lot of our program begins. So it's a special place for us now. These three paths, this middle path, which is the Torah study. Now, in Kabbalah, it's saying path, which it's saying is a kav in Hebrew, refers to the direction of divine influx as it is channeled through the spiritual worlds. The midot, divine and motive attributes, are divided into three paths, if you will. The path on the right is the path of chesed, which includes the midot of chesed and netzach, loving kindness and endurance. I would lightly translate them as opposed to kindness and victory. The left path is the path of Gavaira, which includes these midot of Gavaira and Hod, which it's saying discipline and glory. Now, this middle path of Tiferet, okay, which includes the midot of Tiferet, Yesod, and Malchut. It's saying these words mean harmony, bonding, and sovereignty. I would say like Tiferet perhaps as beauty, Malchut as kingship. Torah relates to this middle path, the path of harmony and truth, okay? And we'll come back to that a little bit more. Now, he may have even reached a point where his service of God fulfills the level that is alluded to in the specific wording of the verse, and you shall serve Havaya, your Elohim, i.e., that as a result of your serving God, the name Havaya, representing past, present, and future as one, and at even higher level, the aspect of Havaya, as it transcends its Hishtashalut, becomes your Elohim, your energy and life force. This Havaya becomes your Elohim. These other words, if you'll listen to the last first hour of this year, then you'll go back through and understand Havaya and Hishtashalit, which is the chain-like downward progression of God's light through the spiritual worlds to be able to exist in the way that we do or don't know it, if you will. This concept of Havaya becomes your Elohim. It's saying this God's name of Havaya. Let's just go back a little bit. Which is the ineffable divine name, or tetragrammaton, composed of the four letters YHVH, Yud He Vav He. And pronounced in conversation as Havaya, there are numerous Hebrew names for God in Scripture, each of which expresses a different aspect or attribute of the divinity. Havaya refers to God, the infinite, transcending creation and nature, time, and space completely. The level of godliness which brings everything into existence. The concept is called ex nihilo. If I'm correct, this is in Latin. Something from nothing. Thus, although Havaya indicates transcendent godliness, it nonetheless relates to Seder Hishtashalit, this chain-like progression of godly light into level by level. It says the chain as it like each part connects together in God's involvement in creation. Now, This God's name Havaya represents godliness as it transcends the worlds. This is indicated in this world Havaya, which is an acronym for the words Haya, Hove, and Yihye, past, present, and future, i.e., Havaya is a state of godliness that transcends the worldly divisions of time. Chassidus, the Chassidut that we're learning, teaches that from the perspective of Havaya, the world is not considered an entity, and it is, if it does not exist, the service of God to become aware of godliness and to awaken emotional love and awe is meant to be done to the degree that Havaya becomes your Elohim. Now, literally, Elohim means mighty ones, connoting strength, energy, and power. Elohim is the name of God that represents his appearance with a nature and corporeality. Therefore, serving God to the degree that Havaya becomes your Elohim means to instill an awareness of God's transcendence and the negligibility of worldliness. Havaya, this like, you understand that there's something that cannot even, for us to grasp the Most High God, we have to have a true conception and reality of how big that God is. And for us to realize how big God is, it takes time and meditation and understanding. That's why we're learning now. So we bring this Havaya and this Elohim into one's mind and heart to the point that he knows God is his reality, his energy, and his life force, which is this Elohim, okay? Stunted progress. Even when a person has attained this state of spiritual elevation, he should be mindful not to become satisfied with his avodah, with his service of God, for then he is arrested in his current state and does not continue to progress in his service of God. In addition to the possibility that the feeling of satisfaction could stunt the continuity of his existing love and all that are already born and revealed, i.e., the concept of miscarriage, God forbid. While engaging in divine service with love and all, his service remains limited and confined to what is required for his satisfaction. When we were learning that, aspirations. Regarding this, the verse states, none shall miscarry or be barren in your land, specifically in your land. The Hebrew word eretz, land, is related to the word ratzon, which is will. And we learn in Bereshit Rabbah 5:8 in the Matnot Kahuna there that at the time of creation, God named the dry surface of the earth eretz. We learn this in the book of Genesis, 1st chapter, 10th verse, for its association with the word ratzon, will, for it wanted to fulfill the will of its master. When we were talking yesterday, one moment, please. L'chaim. When we were talking about the fact that God wills something is not out of a lacking. The verse means that the ideal servant does not even feel satisfaction, i.e., the fulfillment of his will from his service of God. He certainly does not fill his own wishes, since that would make him a full vessel that cannot contain, i.e., he would have no receptacle, i.e., no womb to receive impregnation at all, the first form of barrenness that was mentioned earlier. To get the full understanding, please go back and listen to the full share or pick up right here. One of the concepts that we also brought down is for that the light has to fit the vessel yesterday. And one of the concepts that we frequently cover is the orot and the kalim and the orot, the vessels and the light. And the fact that God's highest level, there is no light or kalim. There's no vessels, there's no light. It's only God's infinite existence and greatness. But as it comes down, it says that light and vessels need to be appropriate for one another. And it was talking about how that we want to keep our vessel. And it's talking about like the eye, if the light is not appropriately tuned to it, then it blinds the person and that they are unable to see. And also a teacher, when they give a concept over, how the concept has to be whittled down or dulled down or brought into the capacity of the person who receives it, which is why a lot of people are not comfortable teaching in this method or sharing information in this method because they're not sure who that they're talking to, and we don't want to cause confusion. But the fact is that in these times of Ikvesa de Mashiach, this footsteps of the Mashiach, that godliness is more readily available to all of us. And may God open your eyes. And we have technology. Ask around, ask here, write comments, 602-338-0129. Feel free to call and we can take and scale back that light. Or for those of you who are seeing this glimmer of light, that you may be able to magnify it in your own life if you're able to receive an even higher light, and may it just be a completely luminous event for us all together as one, as the Most High God and the Rebbeim of Chabad continue to just share godly light with all of us. Number 10, limited time. The verse continues, the number of your days I will fill. Okay. It's saying this is the advice that the Torah offers for developing feelings of inner discontent, okay, by not becoming comfortable in our level of avoda, causing us to be arrested into a situation and a level that we don't want to be in, as the last paragraph was stating. When one contemplates that he is given a set number of days to live, the days in which they are to be fashioned, according to Psalms, in the 139th chapter, 16th verse, the literal meaning of the verse is that a specific amount of days are created for each individual. According to the interpretation of the Zohar 1:224a and Hasidus, the days themselves are to be fashioned. In addition to fulfilling everything that is required, one must also ensure that he is involved in the service of God at all times. Thus, one must fashion his days by filling all of his days, hours, and minutes with the service of God. No less and no more, and that on every day, every hour, and at every moment he must labor to fulfill his mission in this world. It troubles him so much that he has no time at all to think about lofty aspirations. No time to think. This is similar to the words of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, I do not know by which path I will be taken, it says here. Now, in Barakot 28b, when Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai fell ill, his disciples went in to visit him. When he saw them, he began to weep. His disciples said to him, Lamp of Israel, pillar of the right hand, mighty hammer, why do you weep? He replied, when there are two ways before me, one leading to the Garden of Eden, Gan Eden, and the other to Gehenna, a place of purgatory, if you will, and I do not know by which I will be taken, should I not weep? The discourse proceeds to provide one explanation of Rabban Yochanan's statement. One of the meanings of this statement is that he was so involved in fulfilling his mission that he did not have any time to focus on his personal aspirations, as we learn in Kitzurim Ve'Harot Latanya, page 47. The person is so concerned with and immersed, pressed, pressured, and overwhelmed. There's Yiddish in the original manuscript. In fulfilling his mission every day, every hour, and at every moment that he is not aware of the state of his intellect and emotions, and certainly not the hidden aspects of his soul. rebelling against the king. Is fortiori, that there is certainly no room to feel spiritually satisfied. This is like a basic Hebrew term. This fortiori. Let's see here. It's actually saying that it's a Latin term. It's saying with stronger reason, like or from the stronger, used in logic and law to indicate that if one fact is true, a second more certain is true. So it's understood from this that there's fortiori, that there is certainly no room to feel spiritually satisfied. It says, for when a person knows that at every moment he must fulfill his mission in life, and if one moment passes in which he does not fulfill his mission, not only does he miss out on the opportunity to advance and flourish in his service of God, but moreover, at the moment he rebels. At this point, while delivering the discourse, the Rebbe broke down in tears and placed his head on the table. After several moments, the Rebbe resumed the discourse. Against the King, King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be he, by the mere fact that he is not fulfilling his mission, then not only is he beyond feeling satisfaction, as the verse stated, in your land, i.e., your aspirations, but on the contrary, when he is asked, what is the status of your be'artzecha? He cries out bitterly, what have I with holy desires? What have I with delight? What have I with love of God? What have I with awe? How could I think about aspirations when I need to stand on guard constantly, not to let even one moment pass in a state of rebellion against the king? Heaven forbid, by not fulfilling his mission at that moment. Now, this does not mean that the service of God should be accomplished in a constant state of bitterness and awe. Even Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai spent his entire life serving God in a state of joy. Only during his final moments when he was to be led down one of two paths, these two paths, once again, to the Garden of Eden or into purgatory, did he weep bitterly over the state of his soul. To summarize, the verse had stated that one is not to feel satisfied with his avodah, with our service of God. However, it is actually needless to give such instruction, for if at every moment one is pressed to complete one's mission, then he does not even stand a chance to give any thought to any aspirations at all, let alone satisfaction. Having presented these thoughts, the discourse continues by providing reassurance. Number 11, God's part. When a person fulfills the instruction that none shall miscarry or be barren, i.e., he does everything in his power to ensure that his service of God is from true love and all that will be viable and with discontent over his spiritual state, then God will add to his efforts and will guarantee that, in fact, none shall miscarry or be barren. Here, an expression of assurance in your land. There's a short segment missing at this point in the transcript of the discourse. Number 12. In this light, we can further elucidate the verse, the number of your days I will fill. In addition to the person's contemplation about the number of days allotted to him, the verse specifically states, I will fill, meaning God. Furthermore, this is stated in the first person to refer to the narrator of the Torah himself, the actual essence of the Ein Sof, blessed be he, who transcends Hishtashalit. This, we talked about it in the first one, okay? This crowning part that's not even affected by our service of God, but how our service of God, if we're lacking, then the light, it's not destroyed, but the light could be destroyed. It could be harmed. Sparkling days, even when a person lacks in the number of days, quote unquote, in which he served God, i.e., he had days in which he did not fulfill his mission, or even days in which he did what he should not have done. Nevertheless, because the narrator of the Torah transcends his tashalit, this down like chain word progression of light, a level at which there can be no defect. The defect, the number of days allotted to him are filled. And even more than what was allotted, all the days become full, not only as full days, but also splendorous days. This explains the emphasis of the verse, the number, mispar, of your days. The Hebrew word for number, mispar, is related to the word mesparim, as in the verse in the book of Psalms, 19th chapter, 2nd verse, the heavens, the mesoprim, literally declare and figuratively radiate, i.e., they shine and sparkle, as we learn in the Zohar, number 2, 136b. The word mispar is also related to a sapphire stone, even sapir, related to the Hebrew word saparut, meaning brilliance and luminosity. Number 13, eradicating disease, which is one of the original brachas that comes from the verse in Exodus 26:32, where this is brought down out of, Exodus 23:26. This is also the meaning of the verse, and I will remove illness from your midst, which is written in the first person, i.e., the narrator of the Torah is speaking. The illness regarding, because it was talking about the fact that these books of the first 5 books of the Torah, that Moses reiterates and authors some of the parts, but there are like a third person narrating this account of the Torah, which is called Or Ein Sof, God's infinite light. Go back to the first share and listen. It's typically 3 hours. I looked the other night. That's why we're not able to bring down the concepts in 1 hour and a half. It's just not possible. And we were moving at a very healthy speed, but we need time to bring down these things, and we need to go back and review, and may we all be able to do so. And it's wonderful how amazing that this desire for us to, want to learn. Sometimes life in this world, we have responsibilities and things that need us, but as we desire and accumulate this desire to learn, that becomes burning in us, even if we're not able to do it, it sparks our existence, it sparks our day. And then when we finally get that moment to sit down, the work that we're able to perform, like even right now that you're doing right now, that it should just purify and rectify and help us to bring all the salvations that we truly seek into the world, and allow godliness to shine and radiance and brilliance and luminosity, like all the very fine stones and all the godliness that God has locked inside of the Torah, that it be revealed. When we talk about this hishtashlut, this downward progression of godly light, and how God's light goes from infinite, and that it has to be, in theory, contracted or limited so that there could be something else. The fact is that this godly light does not change through the worlds, and God's light is infinite and amazing and right here in front of us right now. May we all receive it and be able to feel it and even truly embrace it in our lives and in our futures. So, and I will remove illness from your midst, which is written in the first person, i.e., the narrator of the Torah is speaking. The illness regarding which the verse states, I will remove illness, refers to the disease that remains in existence even after you serve the Lord your God, and after he blesses your bread and your water. Your bread and your water refer to the written and oral parts of the Torah, respectively. Says here that the Torah provides sustenance to the soul, as do bread and water to the body. For the words of Torah unite the soul with God, giving life to the soul from the source of life. The oral Torah corresponds to water, for the mutability of water describes the oral law's varied forms of interpretation, whereas the written law, like bread, is fixed and solid. For alternative Kabbalistic comparisons, you can look in Maimare Admar Hazakin, 5568, or Torah. Alternatively, they refer to Torah and mitzvot, as we learn in Torah Chaim 448, regarding which the verse states, "He shall bless your bread and your water," that even the service of God through performing Torah and mitzvot are dependent upon the blessing that emanates from the name Havaya. Even at such a state, i.e., at the level of God's name Havaya, there is still a possibility for disease. There is therefore a need for, and I will remove illness, specifically by way of the narrator of the Torah. It's calling it Atzmut, is the name that we brought down yesterday. I'm saying or Ein Sof. It's Atzmus. This Atzmus is it's like if I'm correct, what is it? The connection between this or Ein Sof and some heavy stuff, y'all, but you can carry it. Know that. Just know Atzmus. Atzmut. Atzmut. Atzmus. Root of all disease. It's saying here the illness that the verse refers to is unqualified illness without specific description, referring to the root of all illness, the concept of self-consciousness that is a result of the sin of the tree of knowledge. Saying sin of knowledge, it says, before the sin, there were no feelings of self-consciousness, as the verse states, and they were both unclothed, man and his wife, and were not ashamed, as we learn in Genesis in the 2nd chapter, 25th verse. The sin introduced self-consciousness, as the verse states, and the woman saw that the tree was good food. And Genesis in the 3rd chapter, 6th verse, after Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, she developed a self-conscious perspective, divorced from the godly perspective to which she was previously accustomed. This is why even after you serve the Lord your God and he blesses your bread and your water, there could still be, and there still is, illness. The sin of the tree of knowledge had an effect on everyone, even the righteous and even the completely righteous, as our sages state, for died through the serpent's machinations. We learn in Shabbat 55b and Bava Basra 17a, this was said regarding Benjamin, the son of Jacob, Amram, the father of Moses, Jesse, the father of David, and Eliab, the son of David. The purpose of death is to remove impure or evil aspects of the person that are not eternal. The aforementioned righteous individuals were in their own right perfect and not deserving of death. Only because of the sin of the tree of knowledge brought about by the serpent's evil machinations did evil and self-consciousness become inborn into humankind and create the necessity for even the perfectly righteous to undergo death, as we learn in Lakotei Sikos, volume 24, page 132. So for died through these serpents' machinations, referring to the greatest and most righteous men who died only because of the sin of the tree of knowledge, he who loves. Hence, even the completely righteous are subject to self-consciousness, as is known, Tanya chapter 35. Even a completely righteous person who serves God out of awe and love and delight, according to the Song of Songs, 7th chapter, 7th verse, is not completely selfless, but remains a distinct entity who is in awe of God and loves him. There is an entity who loves. He does not attain the level of cleaving to God, which was the level of his soul before it descended to the world below. Certainly, and to an even greater degree, Beinonim, literally the average people, and those of an even lower caliber, i.e., the wicked, are self-conscious. A person cannot heal the disease of self-consciousness on his own, but only through eliciting the highest degree of godliness. Regarding this, the verse specifically states, and I will remove, in the first person, referring to the quintessence of the infinite, blessed be he, as mentioned earlier. Now it says here that self-consciousness is a manifestation of ego, giving recognition to a presence other than Atzmut. Only when a complete realization of Atzmut's presence dawns upon the person can he completely escape self-consciousness. This Atzmus, which is Etzem, it's saying the essence, it's the absolute existence of God, independent of and prior to creation or manifestation. Now, unlike the Ein Sof, which implies a limitation of divinity to a non-ending state, Atzmus represents God's true self beyond all definition. Let us conclude with Yud Daled, page 73. Materialized blessings. Everything mentioned above will also become manifest in the physical. There will be abundant livelihood, concerning which the verse states, and he shall bless your bread and your water. Health, concerning which the verse states, and I will remove illness from your midst, and furthermore, the number of your days I will fill. It says that is blessings for longevity as well as blessings for health. And children, concerning which the verse states, none shall miscarry or be barren in your land. All of this is in preparation for entering the land of Israel, regarding which the subsequent verses in the Torah speak. So that's Exodus 23rd chapter, verses 27 through 31. So shall it be speedily in our days and with the coming of the righteous Mashiach. There is an original lengthier closing that's missing from this particular transcript. May all the missing parts be applied to our life in a very full way. May we be able to put complete wholeness with God's help, if it's the will of God, that we could even put these two pieces together to form the 2-hour discourse that it is. Shall we continue along? Thank you for joining. Thank you for subscribing. Let's continue along with Parshas Acharei. Oh boy. Oh boy. I'd start a new video, but let's just continue along, sticking with the times. In Acharei number 3, Lakute Sikos, volume 37. L'chaim, it says, sparking our energy and vitality, treating a mitzvah with honor. Number one, Rambam relates the laws regarding using earth to cover the blood of an undomesticated animal or fowl that was slaughtered at the end of the Hilkos Shechita. Afterwards, he concludes the entire Sefer Kedusha, the book of holiness, stating in Hilkos Shechita 14:16, when one covers the blood with earth, he should not use his foot to cover it. Instead, he should use his hand, a knife, or another utensil, so that he will not treat the mitzvah in a demeaning manner, thereby causing the mitzvahs to be degraded in his eyes. Rambam's source is a Baraisa, Kolin 87a, Shabbos 22a, Torah's Kohanim, on Vayikra 1713, excuse me, which refers to a scriptural verse in the book of Leviticus. It's saying here that who sheds, he shall cover his blood, and then states, with whatever he shed its blood, such as his hand, Rashi, he should cover it. He should not cover it using his foot, so that the mitzvah does not be degraded in his eyes. However, Rambam modified the wording of the Baraisa. He begins by saying the prohibition, he should not use his foot to cover it, unlike the Baraisa itself, which, after quoting the relevant verse, begins with whatever he shed, its blood, he should cover it. B, he omits the word of the verse, who sheds, he shall cover its blood, from which the prohibition is derived. We will come back and finish with these words from Parshas Achrei Mot and the Sikos. With God's help, we should be brought back together. May all the particular salvations that we need in our lives and our world, may we understand that it's God's world, and as we serve our Master and do things correctly, that any corrections and any is it a mutation and malfunctions that exist in our lives, that we can correct them, and that they become manifestation of God's true oneness and realness. May we feel it even by the time that we get back into the Vayikra. May we have good reports of joy and love and kindness and sharing. May we have foreverhood. May we have forevership. May we have love for one another. May we have understanding. May we have peace. May we have wisdom. May we have this livelihood too in our bodies and our pockets, and no disease and no barrenness, and that all the feelings that we are in the work that we're putting in, that it should be fruitful and not lost, and that godly light should just continue to increase in our lives. And may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. We thank you for your continued support. We thank you for your efforts and your time in learning Torah. May we be able to continue to do more Torah. Please keep my family in your prayers, and we'll keep your family in our prayers. And we look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. God be with you.